the issues that needs to be looked into if African is a serious continent or not. But as of now, it's rated as an unserious continent because it has not been able to prove to the world her worth in terms of reaching out to her own immediate community first before looking outside.
Okay, you just made mention just now that intellectuals are people that are teaching some of these youths. I just want us to look at this definition of intellectuals. An intellectual is a person who tries to use his or her intelligence and analytical thinking either in their profession or for the benefit of personal pursuits or also for their society. That it means everybody that can reason, can think, and also provide solution for their society, for everybody. So do you think that intellectuals are only those that have gone to school, they have their PhD, doctor, masters, and all of that? I believe everybody is an intellectual that has to contribute to the growth of Africa.
Yes, well, we can look at it from two angles. But the general focus, the general notion of intellectuals is talking about those that are at the forefront in the field of professions and teachings. But from a general perspective, everybody has intellect, has reasoning faculties, and can be at the forefront. But we are looking at the term in the sense in which many people have classified it, looking at those people who are professors, doctors, and the rest, engineers, and the rest, that these are intellectuals. Those who are dishing out knowledge to others, these are intellectuals. But that is not the limited definition. That is not the limited notion of intellectualism. Intellectualism is simply to use your intellect, to use your reasoning faculty, and bring solutions to your community, which means that a chief that is an illiterate is an intellectual, where he uses his intellect, his intuition, his volition, and bring solutions to his community. He's using his intellect. He has brain. He has the intellectual capacity. It's not necessarily academic. It's not necessarily book. Let me make it clear. It's not necessarily book. Intellectualism is not necessarily book. It's just using your intellect to be able to provide solutions, solving problems. You are an intellectual in that level of observation. But we're trying to look at it from the general, the specific perspective where people are classifying professors, doctors, and the rest as intellectuals. But from a general perspective, everybody should know that you are an intellectual. You are somebody who reasons, who uses your brain to bring solutions, to solve problems. You are an intellectual because you are using your intellect to be able to bring the solution. So from a general perspective, each and everybody is supposed to be an intellectual. But from a specific perspective, we are looking at those persons that are teaching, doing research, and that are supposed to do outreach, especially at the level of educational institutions or academic institutions. That was the sense in which we're looking at it. But we need to look at it also from the general perspective that each and every one of us have intellect, we have reasoning faculties, we have intellectual ability to be able to reason out things at our own level and be able to provide solutions and solve problems at our own level using our intellect, using our brain, using our knowledge, and using our wisdom. Yes, but that is the general perspective, and I think that many people should look at it from the general perspective, because the specific perspective have deceived the world. It has deceived the world because many people look up to these individuals called intellectuals as though they are those top people up there, forgetting that they themselves too have intellect. God gave them intellect. People who do not go to school have done a lot of work using their brain, using their memories, using their intuition, and we have a lot of solutions in the communities today which are initiatives of people who do not go to school.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we are looking at intellectualism from specific and also general. That's very important for you. And Mr. Mosoke, this aspect, please, we do not take calls on this program. I don't know if this person is calling to be part of the program, but you can send us your message. There's a number on your screen where you can send us a message. Today we are talking about two very important sets of persons. We are talking about intellectuals, and we are also talking about political leaders. And there's no gainsaying that political leaders are the ones at the forefront of every nation. They are the ones taking the decision and all of that. From your evaluation, these people who are taking decisions in the country, making decisions in the country, pushing the countries forward, and how do you evaluate them in Africa? I'm talking about political leaders now.
Yes, actually, the true meaning of politics, the true meaning, I don't want to look at it from the political definition, but the true meaning of politics is simply to be able to wisely solve problem, wisely leading, and wisely providing solutions to your community. That is it, the easiest meaning of politics. I'm not looking at it from the political aspect of elections, political parties, and so on. Because this model of politics, this democratic model of politics that started in the ancient Greek and which the Roman Empire copied before it flew to the United States, that is trying to think that they are the father of democracy. No, democracy started in the days of great philosophers like Plato and the rest, Aristotle and the rest. These were great philosophers. And the concept of democratia, which started from the ancient Greek before it moved to the Roman Empire, is a concept whereby people are looking at how power should be given to the people. You know, there are two concepts here, and let me make it clear to the public. There are two concepts. You have the concept of democrata or democracy. Then you have the concept of kingdom. We had kingdoms, and most of the existing communities had kingdoms. Even the kingdom of the Great Britain, it was a kingdom. In a kingdom, the king is a supreme authority. It's the same like the kingdom of God. Jesus came with the principles of the kingdom. Okay. In the principle of the kingdom, the king is a leader. The king is the head. The decisions of the king are binding to everybody. So the concept of democrata came up because they realized that the king, even when the king is wrong, they still take it that way because the king. So they said, no, let us look for another way whereby power should instead be with the people. It means that the people should be able to decide who should be their leader. That's where the issue of democracy and the rest came about, where power is supposed to be given to the people. But you realize that in Africa, they are telling lies that they are practicing democracy. Democracy has power. The power does not belong to the leader. It does not belong to the president. The power belongs to the people. So you realize that the people are deceived that we are in a democracy. Instead, in Africa, you see the kingdom model is the kingdom, because the president is just like a king. He is he's the one that has the final say and all this. Whereas that is the kingdom model. You cannot claim that you are in democracy and you are practicing the kingdom model in democracy. That's where the problem is found. So we don't really have democracy because the leaders have not proven to be democratic. Power is supposed to be with the people, and the people decide.
Yeah, the people are the ones doing the election.
No, that's what I'm saying. That is the deception. That is what the deception. If the people are the ones doing the election,
or the
voting, you can bear with me that the word rigging had to come in, because the electoral outcome does not reflect what the people wanted. So there is this dishonesty that is in place, and the people truly wish to select somebody, but at the outcome you realize that the people that they really wanted, or the person that they really wanted, is not the person that finally wins. So there is a problem in the practicing of democracy, because the model of ballot does not really reflect the true outcome because of corruption, rigging, and bad faith. So for you to truly practice democracy, you must put in place the system that can support democracy. It means that the election should be run in a way that nobody who is in power has influence over the outcome. So the outcome is supposed to be handled by an independent body that has nothing to do with the power in place, so that you don't have control over that body. You yourself, you succumb to that body, and you are not the one that's supposed to appoint the members of that body. The community is supposed to select the people to be in that body, so that that body is not accountable to the power that be. That is true democracy. So that you cannot influence them. Their outcome is their outcome. It stands, and you don't have power to influence it. That is true democracy. It means that the power is with the people. But when you are the one that have appointed the people that are running the electoral system, it can never be democratic. It can never be honest, because people pay allegiance to you for a reappointment. That is like their job, and their being there is thanks to you. So they can never be objective, because they have a link with the person or the power or the regime in question. So for us to have true democracy in the real sense, the electoral commission, the electoral system is supposed to be completely independent from the government in place, and it should be an independent body that has nothing to do with any individual, but they give the true result, the true outcome from the field in any situation. So we are not practicing that, and the outcome therefore is doubtful, because it's given by the same people that are appointed by the same power or the same regime that be.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Musoke. Still from what you've just spoken now, you said the electoral body has to be independent from the government or from the regime. And we are talking about when intellectuals and political leaders fail in a continent, what's Africa's legacy? For me, I would like to differ a bit that I will look at it differently, that maybe it's not the political leaders or the intellectuals that have failed. Maybe the people themselves have failed. Why am I saying this? Because if you look at, we are talking about voting here. Majority of the people who are supposed to go out and vote, this is not a political program, but you should just bear with me based on how the discussion is going on. The people who are supposed to go out and vote don't even go out and vote, but they are expecting that this person should maybe be their leader. If you don't vote, how will you expect, how will the person that you want to be your leader come into that position? So I feel that the people themselves have failed. Secondly, another example is that most of the people, the people in the society, for example, this public contract that they give to people, normally the regime gives people contracts, and at the end of the day you see that they eat the money and the contracts are just left there hanging. So those are just two examples that I want to put forth to tell you that really the people themselves are the ones that have failed, and I don't think that the leaders have failed. Do you differ with me?
Yes, the people will never fail. I want you to jot down this concept in your book anywhere, and take note. The people will never fail, because they have not been given power or authority that is purported. When a system is faulty, the outcome can never be truthful. The electoral systems in Africa are extremely faulty, biased, and have serious control over the regimes that be in place, except for the fact that some of the systems, or not even some, most of the systems are also influenced by the colonial hidden hands of the colonial masters, and the colonial regimes also have a hidden hand over this African system because of their interest that they have for the African countries. So the purported systems that are supposed to be in place to assure justice are not in place. I don't like to call the names of political leaders, but for some time, let's take the example of Cameroon. Some political leaders said they will not go for elections because, first, there is war in the English-speaking parts of Cameroon. Secondly, the electoral commission, the electoral bodies are not independent. But I don't know whether those electoral commissions have become independent today. You still find the same persons struggling now to go back for elections. So the whole issue is a mess. The whole issue is a mess. What are we trying to say? When a system is faulty, the electoral systems in Africa are extremely faulty and depend a lot on the powers of the regimes that be, and also have an influence from the colonial master, the imperialists, have not removed their hands on these systems. So it's very difficult. That is why there was no need for us to pretend to have taken democracy. We don't need it. I wish to tell you that we don't need democracy.
What do we need?
We need a system which is, let me say, a federal. I will explain.
Okay.
Federal in the sense that, let's take for example, because a federal system is not necessarily democratic. It can have democratic elements, but it must not necessarily be democratic. Let me give you a simple example. Look at let's just take the southwest region, for example, of Cameroon. Okay. Take the fact that all the governors, all the mayors, all the DOs, all the senior DOs were from the southwest and origins of those places. I want to show you something which is the best, but colonial masters refused because of that interest. This is the system that would have worked and would have developed our nation. I say the DOs, the governors, the mayors, and all those in authority in those areas should be individuals competent of those areas. Then now, you now have a general body where the heads of these regions meet to talk about the affairs of the nation. I'm telling you, this is one of the best systems, because an indigene of a place will know that there is no super hand that has any influence on him. The only influence that is on him is his people, and the people have the power to remove you at any time if you blunder. I'm sure you saw something. But the colonial master saw this in the beginning and turned it upside down so that we should not progress. If this was applicable in Cameroon, for example, that this was applicable, the development that we would have experienced today would have gone too far. Because there's something which they say, blood is thicker than water. When something is yours, the way you treat it is different from something which is not yours. And this was that I'm talking about, federal system, where issues or positions in a particular community are handled exclusively by the people of that community, so that they should develop their community. And that is what is done elsewhere, even in the United States. The governors of states are from that state. You cannot put individuals who are not from that place to lead the people. Their interest will not be to develop that place. They will come and sell all the land as it is done elsewhere today. There's a lot of chaos in Cameroon because the individuals that are leading, and not just in Cameroon, in many African countries, the individuals that are leading in those communities are not indigenous of those communities. They don't have that community at heart because they know that they are passerbys. But an indigene knows that he has nowhere else to go to. If he does not rule well, it is his people that will suffer, and it is him, because even his own parents and generation is found there, is based there. How will you not be objective? But this model, the colonial master knock it off and gave us an upside down model where you bring people who are not part of that community, they come and squander everything, destroy everything, and go them away because they know that that is not their end point. They will eventually go away.
Mr. Masoka, even if they don't rule well wherever they are coming from, they will still be sent away because for example, we are talking about...
No, I'm talking about indigenes of that place. They don't have anywhere else. That is their base. For example, you are from Bova and you are the Dio of Boya. You know that your place is Bova. Even if you don't rule well and they remove you, you are going back to Bova. You are spoiling what belongs to you. You are saying you are going to suffer the effect of the fact that you did not rule well. Assume that, for example, the governor of a region is from that region. He knows that that is his region. He will do everything to make sure that the region is in shape. Because over the time we have realized that people have not been patriotic. People who are put by governments in places where that is not their places of origin, they have never been patriotic. They have never been patriotic. They always walk out their way, gain their interest, and go them away. The people stay behind and suffer. And that is a law of nature. That is why even Jesus Christ went back to his people, the Israelites. They are his people. He's a Jew, was born a Jew. And he says, start from Jerusalem before you go to the uttermost part of the world. It's a principle that works in life. It's just like they take another father and mother and replace the parents of certain children. They can never. They will use their cane, use their whip, and deal with those children well because their children are not theirs. So it's a law of nature. When you are placed in what belongs to you, the approach you use is different from where another person is given that same opportunity. The person will pretend, but from the heart, he's working his ways on how to grasp, because you know that he will not be there for long. He'll be sent to another place to grasp his share from that which he has met. And at the end, it is the people that suffer. That's why you hear of a lot of land saga everywhere. They have been influenced by people who don't have a heart, who don't have a patriotic heart for those communities. It's not only in Cameroon, else everywhere in the world. When it is like that, you have this problem. That is why the federal system is the best, because it gives people the opportunity to lead in their own places of origin. So it gives them the room to serve their people. But when you bring some other person who is not part of that community, he will look for his interest, his personal interest first, and do everything possible to grasp his personal interest and go away. That is a reality and is the truth in nature. It's a principle, it's a law, and you cannot violate it and think that it will go otherwise.
Okay, thank you very much. They always say if you cannot change something, you just have to accept it.
No, you should not. If you cannot change something, continue to work hard so that the thing should change.
Okay, so in as much as the federal system, according to you, is the best system, Cameroon
is one of the best.
One of the best systems. Yes. Cameroon and other African countries are practicing the democratic system. So I believe that what we are supposed to do is to see how we can work together. We can see how
they are not practicing the democratic. The process what we call pseudo democracy. Pseudo democracy means false democracy.
Okay, Mr. Masoka, according to Mr. Masoka.
Yes.
All right.
No, according to observation. Not according to me.
All right.
According to observation.
All right. I want us to also talk a bit about some of the programs that I believe were put together by intellectuals in Africa. I'm talking about the program for infrastructural development in Africa. This is a continental initiative adopted by different African countries to see how they can put up good modern structures to grow Africa forward. So this is just one of the so many programs that they have been carrying out. According to you, you said if they fail, don't you think that these people, they have not failed, but maybe it's just because the process is a bit slow?
You have not cited a program you are talking about. Which of the
infrastructure development in Africa?
Which infrastructure? Because you have to be specific.
They have 4 sectors. They have energy, they have transport, they have cross-border water, and ICT.
None of those sectors have been touched. They still remain in paper. Yes, they have not made any progress.
Mr. Mosoke, this is a program that has been going on, and I believe that, like I said,
I studied the program. I know of the Fifth Vision 2063 of the United Nations that said that by the year 2020, the guns will be silenced, which means that there will not be conflict again in Africa. No conflict will exist in Africa. Point two, we have a problem. Let me explain this problem to us. The African Union, that is a leading body in Africa, does not have power. It does not have power to influence anything in Africa, the African Union. Now, you have these regional bodies also, like ECOWAS, CEMAC, and the rest. All these bodies are virtually not doing anything also for the people. So, we have an Africa that is not integrated. After so many years, we're supposed to have highways that link all African countries. Which means that you can drive from here to Ghana, if you wish. You can drive from here to Algeria, if you wish. Clear-cut, demarcated roads that you can take and move from one country to the other. We're not supposed to be asked passports or visas to enter any African country. This project has been for long. It's not existing. It has not seen the light of day, or whatsoever you may wish to see. There are many of those things. We're talking about ICTs. We are talking about agriculture, and all these things, they are still in paper. We are not seeing any improvement. That is why you see African youth are rushing elsewhere every day. If these projects were even in place, no youth will wish to go elsewhere for anything, because these projects will generate a lot of jobs. A lot of jobs. But it all ends in paper and noise. They don't wish to contribute. They want to take loans. They want other bodies in the world to come and help them. For how long? For how long? Africa is still helpless. Even at the 21st century, they have refused. They have interest embezzlers and corrupt officials in all the African countries, taking away the wealth to other foreign banks and saving this wealth there. We don't have African leaders that have Africa at heart. They have their interests, their individual interests, and the interest of the colonial masters. I've said it, I'm probably to still say it again. The colonial masters, colonial companies influence Africa. Look, for example, what is happening now in Nigeria, where Aliko Dangote has started an oil refinery. And this oil refinery, if properly, if it works, functions well, it's going to create a lot of jobs, and it's going to cause the price of fuel to drop, so that the citizens can enjoy the fallout. But now you see, there is already a fight from colonial influence over Dangote, who is doing business in his own country. External influence want to come and influence the government against Dangote. There are many of such things that we can enumerate. We don't treasure our own. So the leadership of Africa has a problem. And this problem has been that African leaders have not been patriotic to their countries. They have not actually shown the love for their nations, the love for their people. Their people are suffering, not because they don't have, but because they don't have authority and power over their own resources. Their resources are controlled by foreign imperialists and colonial masters. So it's a problem in Africa that really needs to look into. And the same mindset that Africans have is the same mindset that they carry in the diaspora. What have African diasporas truly done for Africa concretely, if not of sending back home micro remittances to build one small house here by the corner and things like that, and to help their parents to eat and live? What else? So the African person, the African personality is a problem. Africa is not credible to stand anywhere to make any statement that will stand, because they have made so many statements over the years. Nothing has happened. They make noise, they talk. The whole meetings. What is the outcome? Have the guns been silenced? Do people even have water to drink in African countries? Do people have water? The basics. Do people have constant flow of electricity? The basics. What is the price of fuel? What is the price of gas in countries and nations that have the resources, the natural resources that are used to produce these things? Their own citizens are not enjoying the fallout because of bad leadership structures and systems in Africa. African youths are suffering and they are running elsewhere, whereas the natural resources that those other nations are using to develop their countries is coming from Africa, and youths will leave their own continent and they are going to labor elsewhere under the influence of bad African leadership that has not taken Africa as a priority. Africa would have been long transformed, but we have had bad African leaders that have not helped the continent.
All right, Mr. Musoke, let's take on this reaction. This one says, hello, hi TV. I am a doctor and I am an educational doctor, and I wish to tell the man talking that severally I have written projects and proposals and given even at the lowest level to the local authorities, but nothing has been done about it. You are not forced to do something in Cameroon without being approved. It's not like the intellectuals are not doing anything. They have tried, but they are not being given the opportunity to go ahead with what they have for Africa.
Let me answer the question. It's not sufficient to write projects and submit, raise funding for that project. That is the most difficult part of project implementation. Before you implement a project, you need funding. You cannot just write. Everybody can write. Anybody can write a project, but it is funding. You have to go further to source for funding. There is no way that you can present a project and present funding and it's rejected. No council in Cameroon can reject that. You provide a project, you provide for what? Funding. Go for funding. Many great projects that you see these guys come to implement in Africa and the rest, they come with the funding. They don't come and write projects and come and throw at the feet of the government. No. Where is the funding? You know you are dealing with a nation or with a continent that is a cash or fund trap. They are borrowing every day. You see it. We are on two eyes. Then you write a project and give them. When would they have the funding to fund that project? So you have not done your job completely. You have to go for funding. You have to source for funding. And that is a problem, because even the government has problem of funding. So you cannot just write. Anybody can write. Myself sitting here, I've written so many projects, but I'm struggling to search for funding for those projects, because the government does not have that money that you think that you write a project and give them. Where would they have the funding when they themselves, even to run the internal affairs of the country, they don't have? Every day they get for loans. They have given out bonds out to raise about how many close to 500 to 600 billion dollars or so, with bonds that have given with bonds of interest of 10.75%. It is unheard of that a country will give out bonds with an interest rate of 10.75% payable in 7 years. This is unheard of since the world started. It shows you the desperate cash-strapped situation of African countries. Normally such bonds are supposed to be for 3 to 4% returns, but it is 10.75% return for 7 years. I'm telling you, companies will buy such bonds at the speed of light because the interest rate is too high as return. These are things that we're saying. So you cannot just write a project and throw there. Who will look for the funding when the government instead does not have funds? They are borrowing every day. They are borrowing every day because they have placed themselves in a cash trap situation. They have overborrowed and they have huge internal debts. All Africa, they have huge internal debt, African countries. And that is a secret that Magufuli came up with and help his country to free his country from this debt. And the imperialists could not believe this. That is the strategy. So most of them would have asked, but how did Magufuli go about it? Can we use the strategy of Magufuli and give ourselves 5 to 10 years to free ourselves from internal debt and external debt? It's possible. But every day they take money, they take debt, debt. Then you want to write a project and give them when they cannot even meet up. Their internal debt burden and load is so high they cannot even pay. They are owing all the sectors. Where would they have that extra money that you just write a project and give them?
Mr. Mosoke, I quite agree with you that when they write a project, there's also source for fund, which is good.
Because the government itself has too many projects that they don't even have funding for. The government has too many projects herself that they don't even have funding for those projects that they have for the country. They don't even have funding. Then you come and add to their burden.
No, I believe that if somebody gives you
you ask a question, where has our own money gone to? Our own money has been embezzled and taken to foreign banks.
And then we are borrowing.
And we are borrowing. We are still going to borrow our own money that our embezzlers have taken to those foreign banks. We have a corrupt system that have embezzled for over 60 years. And these monies are found in foreign banks and foreign investments. So it has placed Africa in a cash trap situation that she cannot survive without huge borrowing at the detriment of her own citizens. That is the problem in which we find ourselves today in Africa. That's where the youths are going. Because investments, mega investments that were supposed to be done in Africa to employ the youth cannot be done. Where is the funding? Others are skeptical to come and invest in your country. So you are the one to invest in your country. Because you will not be skeptical of your own country. Where is the money for those investments? Every day, embezzlers. For example, in Cameroon, you have the COVID gate, the Can gate, the Glencore scandal, and so many scandals. These scandals have to do with finances, have to do with money, have to do with embezzlement. These are the realities. So it's not sufficient like those days where you can write a project and it will be funded. Today, that does not exist again because the government itself is cash trapped. They don't have money. The monies have been embezzled. Even the money that comes, even the one that they still borrow, they still embezzle a portion of it and take back for their individual interests. That is a problem which you have in Africa. The systems are not credible. The systems are not reliable. We have very corrupt systems, and there are no checks and balances in most of these systems. So the youth and the population are the ones suffering. Can you imagine that after 60 years plus of independence, people don't have water to drink, people don't have electricity, people don't have gas at affordable prices, people don't have fuel at affordable prices in countries that generate fuel or in which fuel is refined or who are sellers of crude oil. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. Why? Because thieves, embezzlers have led the African continent for the past 60 years and have stolen everything. And what is left now, they are struggling to press the burden on the people. And the price of living, the cost of living is rising. The people are the ones suffering. Yes. When fuel prices go on, no top official feels it because they use fuel bomb. They don't pay from their pockets. It is the masses that suffer.
All right, Mr. Mosoke.
Yes. So we must know these details.
You just mentioned something that I was about bringing up, the cost of living. We are looking at our African youth, and they are looking up to these intellectuals, they are looking up to their politicians, they are looking up to the government for things to get better, maybe for them to get jobs. There's no gain saying.
Don't look up to intellectuals. Let me not cut you. Don't look up to intellectuals. Don't look up to government. Look up to yourself and look for a solution for your life.
In as much as they are looking up to.
Yes, don't look up to anybody. Everybody has failed. So you're not supposed to look up to anybody. Look up to yourself and see whether you can work a way out for yourself. And that's why many of them are going through the Mediterranean Sea. Many of them are going through Mexico, because they think that if they land into one of those countries, maybe things will be better.
So are you saying that in as things are not going well in Africa, we have corrupt leaders, cost of living and everything is very high, you're advising our youth to go to other countries?
No, I'm advising our youth to devise their own means of survival. It's an issue of survival. If some people think that their own means of survival is to travel out of the country, fine. If some people think that their own means of survival is to go professional, fine. If some people think that their own means of survival is to be able to go agriculture wise on their own, fine. If some people think that their own means of survival is to go business wise, entrepreneurship and the rest, fine. You have to devise what is going to work for you, but let it be ethical, let it be legal, let it be acceptable. Don't go the illegal way, don't go the unethical way. I encourage youth to go to any way, any method, any strategy that will work for them, but it should be legal, it should be ethical. Don't go out of moral bounds to do anything. Stay in the moral boundaries, legal boundaries, ethical boundaries. Do what is going to work for you and do it and survive. Choose what is going to work for you.
Whatever this youth or whatever they decide to choose and do, all depends on if they are financially viable. That's not there's no lying about that.
No.
Okay.
No.
So what can they do with that money?
If they are creatively viable, you have to be creative. It's not everything that needs money.
Mr. Musoke, just give us an
Let me give you a very simple example for youths to understand. There are free online skill training on social media. And these free trainings on social media, after these free trainings, you can work online on your own and be paid from a monthly basis. You don't need money for that. There are free, just too many free things on the internet today.
We would like to get the link so that somebody...
No, there are many links. I will really take one session on that to talk about that. I'm just mentioning it in passing to give you that you don't need money as such, but you need some skills and some trainings which are free online today. Many people are providing these services for free online.
You don't need data.
No, when you talk about money, I'm showing you what, because when you talk here about money, we are talking about capital. Yes, but I'm telling you that you can, within a little means of data, be trained, and with that you can start generating money that you can use now to do other things for yourself. We are talking about money, and you are talking about money in the sense of capital. Have something that can, like for example, to pay a flight to whatsoever. It's too much, but you need just small money. And if you are disciplined enough, you can learn something online that will help you to start doing some activities online. And very soon you realize that you are generating money. And before you realize it, you have amassed money that you can even use for other things. That's what I'm trying to talk about. So youth should do that which can work for them. If you have the means, rather to take the Mexican route, for example, which requires a lot of money, to take that path, and you think that when you go through is going to be good for you, fine. If you think that is going by going through the Mediterranean,
which many of them are
that dying, is going to work for you, fine. I'm not giving any means. You know yourself and you know what can work for you. The only thing which I'm saying is that don't use the illegal means or method. Don't use unethical methods. Don't go beyond the moral boundaries of life. Be within the acceptable boundaries of life and check that which can work for you, which will not require you to spend money, which will require you just little investment, and you gain the skills and you can use these skills to be able to make it. I don't want to quote people who are making a lot of money now online and who did their training online for free. They did not pay. They disciplined themselves. Youths are too scattered today. They use their phone only on WhatsApp. But there are many things that you can learn on your own. All the time that you waste to scroll through Facebook and the rest and WhatsApp, you can use that time to learn skills that are free online. And before you realize it, you are well to do and you can make it. So it depends on you.
Africa, they say, is a very rich continent, and also going by research, that Africa is a very rich continent and has all the resources. And if you look at our the Western countries, the Western world, and you do a comparison, you see that Africa is still very far behind in terms of so many things. I cannot even name them: infrastructure, IT, and all of that, even roads and all of that. Now, Mr. Musoke, do you think it is wise for somebody like you who analyzes to compare these two continents, like the Western world and the Africa? Africa normally was colonized by these white people. They taught us so many things, and I think it's a gradual process for us to go there.
No. The systems that the colonial masters have put in place is to ensure that Africa does not develop. Permit me to repeat this. I said the systems that the colonial masters have put in place is to ensure that Africa remains in the dark ages. You can only develop when you cut off from this influence and have power and authority and can take decisions on your own that nobody can tell you no or yes. And I am not for coup d'etats. I'm not for that. But you realize that the Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali have taken a certain move to cut themselves off from the colonial masters. Because the grip that the colonial masters have on Africa is very difficult to be free from it, if not by certain means or methods. But I'm saying that I am not for coup d'etats and for such methods. But some people have resulted in it. That is their own way to free themselves.
No violence.
Yes, and they have been non-violent in what they have done. And the goal is to cut off from the grip and the exploitation of the colonial masters who have destroyed the African systems and does not want Africa to move ahead. African countries take loan from the World Bank and the IMF 8 times the cost of interest than their colonial counterparts. This is exploitation, and it's the same Africans that gave them this opportunity to develop. Africans are scattered all over the world, working even in some of this IMF and World Bank. They have not fought for their continent to be given a priority. Even if they fight, it will not be given, because those bodies, those British institutions have their goals, they have their vision, they have their goal is to make money. These are business bodies, including the United Nations. They are business bodies that have their interests all over the world, and they go only for their interest. So what am I trying to say here? I'm trying to say that Africa must take her destiny into her hands. Let them look for the best method possible and cut off from the colonial grip so that they can be independent, have authority and power, and can decide on their own. You cannot have a continent where most of the investments in that continent are foreign investments, and all the money is going back to those foreign countries. Your own citizens are paying, are giving money back to the colonial master. For how long should this continue to be? And we say we have intellectuals. No. We don't have intellectuals in Africa. We don't have. Because the move of intellectuals will stop this. We don't have them in Africa. We don't have them. I mean, in the sense of, we have title holders, doctors, professors, and the rest. They are title holders. They have nothing to offer to the African continent in terms of making sure that the African continent is free from the bondage of the colonial master. That is the greatest achievement that Africa needs to achieve. And let Africa start deciding on her own affairs and her own development. As long as the colonial masters are still having the toll on Africa, you cannot go to anywhere. You cannot go to anywhere. You cannot. That's why you see African presidents will leave their countries and assemble in front of one colonial president in foreign countries in the West and the rest. All African presidents, like boys, they go and sit in front of one person. That person is talking to them. Is it not a shame? Not a shame to the 21st century? It's a shame to the African continent that they don't have presidents that have authority to say, no, you alone will call all of us. How? How come? No. Please come to the African Union Summit and pass on out your vision that you have for Africa. We can call an extraordinary African Union Summit. Come there and talk to us in Africa. We cannot leave our continent to come and meet you alone. These are signs of desperation by a continent that has everything. By a continent that has everything, they have refused to develop, has refused to be independent because of bad leadership, bad leaders, individuals that don't want Africa to be free, individuals that steal all what Africa has and take to foreign nations. And Africa is lamenting in poverty. Africa is not poor. Leaders have made Africa to appear to be poor because Africa has everything that it takes for a continent to develop.
Okay, I will just take on this contribution and then you react on it. We'll just give you some few minutes to catch your breath. Maybe we'll take a jingle break. This is still the very person who wrote the first time that he's an educational doctor. Yes. He said he's going to disagree with the man speaking that there are no intellectuals in Africa. He himself just made mention that the system is corrupt, opportunities are not being given to people, and the system is being controlled by external influence. And how do you think that an intellectual in an African country's contribution is going to count if they are not being given that opportunity to do what they think will push Africa forward? Thanks. Okay,
let me answer. Intellectuals don't need to be given the opportunity. Intellectuals are considered as the topmost individuals in any society. They don't need to be given the opportunity. They take the opportunity. In many countries, their progress has been thanks to the influence of intellectuals. The intellectuals of Africa can ground the continent. Listen very well to me. I said the intellectuals of Africa can ground the continent and the presidents will be forced to act. I'm telling you the plain truth. Because they don't know their right as intellectuals. I said intellectuals in a continent can ground a continent and presidents will be helpless and powerless. And before you realize it, things will change. But a good number of them are fearful. They are very fearful. They are afraid. It is intellectuals that are supposed to stand up for the people, because they know it is intellectuals in Africa that are supposed to stand up for Africa. I'm not talking of single intellectual. I'm talking about the body of intellectuals in Africa can say enough is enough. Enough is enough. And let me tell you, before you open your eyes, enough will be enough. I say intellectuals in Africa can say enough is enough, and you walk. But since they are scattered, divided, everybody is struggling to do his own thing at his own corner. They don't have a force. Nobody can look at anything that you are saying. People don't respect individual opinions. But an opinion from a body that has power, nobody can withstand it. Not even the African Union, not even the European Union, not even the United Nations can stand the force of African intellectuals as a body. Not. But are they united? Are they in one accord? Do they have anybody like that? Do they have a force like that? They don't have. Because even they themselves are very selfish, very egoistic, and they don't want to see change. Even they themselves don't want to see change. They want to see their individual goals and visions met, and what is happening to Africa as a whole does not mean anything to them. This is the reality. Africa has reached a point where the intellectuals in Africa were supposed to sit up and stand up as one. They said, enough is enough with our continent. We cannot continue to see this. They stand up. No government in the world can stand such a force. Let me give them this idea. I'm giving you people as intellectual for free. For free, yes. You cannot fight an established corrupt system as an individual or as a few set of people. It needs a force, and I believe that the African intellectual is even more than that force to stand for Africa and for African youth. But will they have this in mind? No. Everybody is in his own small corner, doing his research, doing his own publications and the rest. Which influence can that bring for a dying continent? It needs a force. The African intellectuals and the African diaspora. These are the two set of persons. These are the two set of forces that I'm talking about. The force that can be created by African diaspora and the force that can be created by African intellectuals. These two forces, the African continent cannot stand it. The European Union itself will tremble. But where is it? So that is it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll just give you some short time because we don't have much time to catch your breath. And tell viewers, the program you're watching is Excellency Button High Television. The program is highly interactive. You can be part of the program using the numbers you find on your screen. We're going to go for the break and we'll be back.
Seek ye first the kingdom of God. That's right. Mani no na no la maya wono, mani no na no la maya wono. Induwe ya mi wunda no no ele ma, mani no na no la ma o eli wea. Udwa wema. Mani no na no la maya wono, mani no na no la maya wono. Mani no na no la maya wono, mani no na no la ma o eli wea. Onenga na jelie mana monyengi, onenga na jelie kinga ngomo, onenga na jelie kinga fako ima monyamu wetoko ijoke monyengi. Ui, that's right. Onenga na jelie kinga ngomo, onenga na jelie mana maloko, onenga na jelie kinga fako ima monyamu wetoko ijoke monyengi. Mani no na no la maya wono, mani no na no li ho, mani no na no li mani no na no la ma o li ya. Na jani ginya, na jani molataku, na jani luwe, na jani ndolo. Najani ginya, najani ndolo, najani yole, najani liga utani panya, liga utani panya, liga utani panya, liga utani panya, mololo komuno. Mani no na no la maya wono, mani no na no la ma wono, mani no na no la mani no na no la maya wono. Onenga na jelie kinga ngomo, onenga na jelie mana maloko, onenga na jelie kinga wawa ma wonyamu wekoko ijoke monyengi. That's right. Najane yola, najane ndolo, najane luwa, najane linga otani. Sexy. elinga utani panya, panya, elinga utani panya, 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 elinga utani panya, panya, elinga utani panya, 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 panya. Manino na nuela mangea.
You're welcome back, televiewers. This is Excellence Impact on High Television, and with me on set I have the General Coordinator of Excellence Union International Group, Musoke Lucas Lyonga, and we are talking about when intellectuals and political leaders failed in a continent, what is Africa's legacy? We have been discussing so many things, how leaders have failed, how our system is being influenced by external forces, and how Africa or Cameroon, for example, is living in debt. So many things have been discussed here. Mr. Musoke will begin this session with this contribution from this youth. He said, I'm a youth and I'm watching the program. I'm enjoying the program. I wish to find out how I'm going to start, how I'm going to survive now that the cost of living is very, very high. And as I'm talking with you, I have nothing handy. I wish for the man, Mr. Musoke, to tell me and many other youths who are like me, how we can survive in these trying moments. Mr. Musoke, you talk briefly on that because we are concluding soon.
Yes, actually, it depends on what you know so far. You would have maybe explained what you have done so far. Are you maybe a graduate in the university? Are you a GC, advanced level holder, an O level holder, a first school holder? So that when I'm advising, I'll know what to tell you specifically. So please, I'll propose that you be specific in your question. Who are you? Which level do you have? So that if I'm giving an advice, I should give it at that level. I should not go and be telling you something which graduates should do. Then I'm telling somebody who has a first school or somebody who is a carpenter or whatsoever. So please, come back on board, send your message and be specific. Who are you? What have you done so far in life? I'll be able to advise you accordingly. Thank you.
You're welcome, Mr. Musoke. And that contribution just reminds me of something, the cost of living. Recently, Mr. Musoke, a bag of rice which used to be 9,000 is now 40,000, and the bigger bag is 80,000. And this guy just made mention that the cost of living is very, very high nowadays. You know, at first rice used to be the most common meal. Even if you don't have money, you can eat. And then look at the cost of living now in Cameroon and also maybe in so many African countries. And then look at our educational system. You yourself have mentioned here that it is not really grounded. It has failed in one way or the other. Looking at the youth, we are talking now about the youth. How would they survive in such an environment?
I still wish to say that the blame goes to intellectuals.
Let's not blame.
I'm coming for the solution. You know, the power of a nation is supposed to be in the hands of intellectuals. I wish to say this. Government, political leaders are what I call opportunists. It means that you can be a first school holder and you are leading a nation. So opportunists are not supposed to lead intellectuals. It has never happened, but it's happening today. I'm saying it again. I say opportunists are leading intellectuals. It's a paradox, it's a contradiction. I thought that intellectuals will be able to sit up. How can opportunists be leading intellectuals? It's supposed to be the other way around. And when opportunities are leading a nation, these are the consequences. You cannot expect anything good from opportunists in Africa. Intellectuals are supposed to take their responsibility. I'm saying it again. They are supposed to take the government of Africa, intellectuals, with the game and the goal to change Africa. Africa cannot be changed by mediocres. Africa can never be transformed by mediocres. Intellectuals can bring a change in the nation. Intellectuals, I mean genuine intellectuals, not fake ones. So all what we are suffering, we are even going to suffer worse if intellectuals don't sit up. I'm telling you the truth. Because mediocres don't know the impact on the community of their actions and decisions. But intellectuals that have studied who know, they know that if you do like this, things will go off hand. If you do like this, things will go worse. They are the ones that are supposed to be in power. A nation is supposed to be governed by intellectuals, because intellectuals know their left from their right. A nation is not supposed to be governed by opportunists, by mediocres. Mediocres have killed the African continent. Why are intellectuals not at the helm of Africa? Why? Is Africa governmental positions meant for mediocres? Why don't we have professors as presidents?
Maybe they are not interested.
In Africa, they are not interested, and mediocres are killing the continent. Let them not be interested, and let mediocres kill the continent. Their own children too will suffer. So let intellectuals take their responsibility. I'm saying it. Let them take all the African presidency and all top positions in Africa should be handled by intellectuals, because they will bring a change. They have the know-how. They can transform a continent within a very short time. They have the power to do that. They have the know-how. As long as they continue to stay behind, Africa will continue to suffer. The prices of basic commodities will continue to rise. Will continue to rise as long as mediocres are in authority, are in power. Which type of world is this? Which type of continent is that? Intellectuals are being led by mediocres, and they sit and see it to be normal. No! Political power is supposed to be in the hands of intellectuals. Great political scientists are intellectuals. Why are they not in authority? Why are they not in power? Why? They have all the knowledge on how to become a president. Why don't they become presidents and change things? Mediocres will never bring a change. Never. Don't expect any change from the hands of mediocres. Never. In any community. And this applies also in churches. Let me say this again. I always like to come back to churches. Churches that are led by mediocres will never make progress. I say churches that are led by mediocres, mediocre pastors who don't know anything. They are left for their life. They have failed in life. And they say God. The best place is for me to go to a theological seminary. They are called when they are failed. You are not called when you are failed.
No, they call them.
We need reverend doctors, reverend professors to be leaders of churches. They will lead with a difference. They will not lead like these fake guys who tell you that come and put 200, God will give you 500 million. An intellectual cannot do that because it's false. Intellectuals are honest, at least. They can better manage and lead people. But they have refused to do that. Whereas they have the ability, they have what it takes to be leaders in community. While others are doing research, some of them are leaders. Not leaders selected by mediocres. Because the ones that are selected by mediocres and put in places have also become intellectual mediocres. It's a problem.
Don't forget that in Cameroon, it's also possible for you to buy any certificate that you want. So maybe
no, I'm not talking about that one even. We are talking about the reality
so
now.
If they show their certificate,
we are talking about the realities. We're not talking about fakeness.
Meanwhile, they are not.
We will come to the fakeness tomorrow or some other time. But we are talking about genuine intellectuals. They are the ones to lead us. They are the ones to lead a nation. Because they will have a strategy and they have a conscience. And they will devise means to help a nation. Africa's hope is in God, but intellectuals must sit up and do their work. Their job should not end in publications, in papers. Their job should be how to take over Africa and lead Africa through the right path. I'm very serious about this. We have played over this for 60 years plus. It's high time intellectuals rise up and take their place and help Africa out of this mess that mediocres have put Africa in. We cannot continue like this. Whereas we have people who say they are intellectuals in Africa. The African revolution is in the hands of intellectuals. Let them sit up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mosoke. Intellectuals in Africa, you have been challenged to get up, to rise up, and maybe take over Africa so that we can all realize change, positive change. That's a challenge, and I believe that those who are watching, and thank God one of you is also watching, who is participating on the program. You can rally everybody around, you people form a body and see how to go about all of this. A lot have been said on this edition of the program, and we are rounding up. We are going to give Mr. Mosoke, we are going to give our guests an opportunity maybe to summarize all what he has said. Somebody is just coming into the house and watching, the person maybe will not miss out on anything.
Yes, what we are trying to say here is trying to say that the politicians and the intellectuals that we have had in Africa has failed Africa. It's high time for intellectuals to take political power in Africa, economic power in Africa. A continent cannot continually be led by mediocres. How do we expect anything serious from such a system? Let intellectuals take their position, take their place. Let them take political powers. I mean, genuine intellectuals. We are not talking here about fake people that will also have their individual agenda to come and fulfill. Intellectuals rise up and take over power in Africa and bring a change that the youths have been expecting. Most of you are political scientists, top professors in law, and so on. It should not only end at the four walls of the classroom. Please take political power in Africa and help the dying African youths. They are dying because their presidents don't have them at heart. But we believe that intellectuals will bring a change because their own way of leading will be different from mediocres that have killed this continent and sold this continent in the hands of colonial masters. We believe that intellectuals will do better and save the future of African youths. This can only be done when intellectuals work together and they maybe liaise with the diaspora, the African diaspora, and let them look for a strategy to push off all these mediocres that have stayed in power in Africa and let them take over the African continent and bring a change. That is what African youth are waiting for. And many African youths that have traveled abroad will come back. They will come back because intellectuals will make sure that they have standard universities with programs that have a meaning. And many other sectors, the professional sectors and so on, technical education and all this, many more things will come. African youths are looking up to God and up to intellectuals' intervention in the problem that Africa is going through. We cannot continue to stay in the merciful hands of mediocres that have failed for more than 60 years. Let intellectuals come up on board and bring the change. African youths are looking up to intellectuals to bring this change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mosoke. We can always say, well said at the end of the day when you raise a problem and also provide solutions to those problems. So we wish to thank you very much for your input today. I believe so many people who are watching from home or are watching us online have learned a lot, and the challenge is still on the table for intellectuals and political leaders to see what they can do to change the narratives, because truly speaking, Africa is suffering. And that's how we saw it on this edition of the program today, ladies and gentlemen. The rebroadcast of this program will be at 10 p.m. this evening. And join us again next week for another edition. Stay tuned to High TV and stay blessed.